Happy Monday to everybody out there. Welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast. Jamie Lynch, Renee Washington, Tyler Zulli in with you. Pretty good weekend for the Phils. Almost perfect, some would say. It's unfortunate to lose the game they did yesterday in the fashion they did after a pretty spectacular comeback there led by Edmundo Sosa. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of that game and the weekend that was. I'm actually a little irritated after yesterday's game, and I admit that this was a complete spoiled baseball fan, just like foul taste in my mouth after yesterday's game a little bit, because that game was there for the winning. The Marlins stink, and when you come back and get that, excellent triple from Sosa, and the bullpen more or less comes in and does their job, why are you using a guy an inning there? The Phillies don't have an off day this week, Renee.
Yeah.
Spencer Turnbull is not a one-inning guy.
I know.
He's a 2 or 3 inning guy at this point. And I thought to use him only for 1 inning yesterday and then to give Gregory Soto the situation where he inherits a ghost runner. I just feel like you're asking to lose a little bit on a day when the offense was Nick Castellanos home run early, Sosa triple that did all the damage late. Other than that, Braxton Garrett was striking people out. The offense was slow. You were hurt and beat up. So I fully admit that this is a spoiled, good baseball fan rant. But I thought Rob was not good yesterday.
So I wasn't frustrated. I was a little bit skeptical after the game, and I know it had me thinking negatively about the Phillies and wondering, should we be a little bit more concerned about some things, the injuries, pitching in general? Because, you look at a game like yesterday, and as you mentioned, with all the injuries and, scraping together a lineup and the next player up mentality, and they delivered. They started off great. Nick Castellanos, great to see him back in Florida, got him heated up and going. Another home, big hit for him. Another big game for him overall.
Him and Bryson are, I think, hot.
Yeah, and you see Nick to come out and help yet again get them on the scoreboard with that home run. It felt like everything was going great. And it's like, okay, good. The game started off. The Phillies jump out to a nice lead. They're going to just, continue to close this out. Of course, we'll talk about Zack Wheeler's struggles yesterday. But I think it was in that moment that I kind of was wondering, and this is what losing does. It makes you have to overanalyze things.
I don't even think.
No, I was.
I don't think it's even an overanalyzation. But I was
wondering, okay, are there things that we're seeing now that we're taking for granted that are going to come back and bite the Phillies later? Because what we typically know in sports is there are those things, and we just did this with the Eagles in the fall. We did this with the Sixers in the winter. We do it all the time. That you see, it's the I won't say red flags, it's the yellow flags that have you like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. And the bullpen consistently pitching, everybody goes 1 inning. That is one of those yellow flags that we've seen now a handful of times, that relievers are getting pulled quickly, and then now you're getting later in the game and you're kind of reaching, and instead of allowing someone like Spencer Turnbull to go longer.
Yeah.
And so I've noticed some yellow flags, and I just am now trying to figure out, are we, because the Phillies are winning, and I'm not going to talk about who they're beating because I don't care. A win is a win. Are we maybe getting by with some of these yellow flags, and because they're winning, overlooking them, and they might come back to bite them later? And I have some more. We'll talk about that as the show goes on. But this weekend had me thinking that way, and I hate to even have to think skeptically like that.
Well, Christopher Sanchez is pitching today, so maybe Rob, and we'll see how he deploys him tonight. Tyler, I am interested in your thoughts on this. Maybe he goes, all right, well, I just want to give Spencer 1 so that I can have him ready for 2 or 3 in case Sanchez or Walker is ready to go here. Maybe he's looking at the 7 days ahead, and there's no off days. So maybe 1 inning pitched was normal pitch counts for these guys, and he's just keeping them ready. I'm giving him the slight benefit of the doubt here that he's managing the week ahead more so than me looking at a Sunday winnable game in Miami. But yeah, to me, it made very little sense to not throw Turnbull more than at least 1 inning there.
Right.
He's stretched out. He's been a starter. He's been terrific. He looks great in his bullpen role. So that's a big plus for the Phillies. Tyler, what were your thoughts on yesterday's 1 inning a man bullpen type of over management? Is it just a May game to you? It doesn't bother you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, to me, it's one game. I mean, I think I don't disagree with you that Turnbull probably could have gone a second inning there, and I think it probably sets you up in a little bit of a different capacity to manage what turned out to be an extra inning game. But they are, they've now won 8 of their last 10 series, and they are 8-0-2. In their last 10
but that
series.
Doesn't mean you can't complain.
They've not lost a series since April 1st to the 3rd against the Cincinnati Reds. Listen, I mean, they did what I needed them to do. I think that we're almost shortchanging
the Marlins
this team.
stink.
Well, sure, but it doesn't matter if you're playing the Marlins, the Rockies, the White Sox, or 3 of us plus 6 more people you found on the street to go play, an inter-squad game, an intramural game somewhere. Winning, sweeping on the road is a difficult task, and they did what I needed them to do this weekend, which was go down there and win 2 out of 3. And if you go and you win 2 out of 3 every 3-game series,
well, yeah,
you're talking,
taking the 30,000-foot view at it. I'm looking at it just those 3 innings of baseball, or those 5 innings of baseball.
They've got a lot of baseball ahead. They've got a lot of baseball still to go.
I think
and I don't mean for the season. I mean this week.
Yeah,
they've got 7 games this week, which parlays into next week. So you're looking at it at 7 games, but it's really 11
throws
straight.
Like 3 innings. I go, all right, Rob knew what he was doing. He's spacing out the week. If Turnbull gets used for 1 inning again, like tonight or tomorrow, then I'm going, you should have thrown him a couple innings on Sunday. Mine are great, but I hated the way it was managed.
Well, I think to me, what's concerning is this is not the first time we've seen this. And yes, again, the Phillies have been phenomenal. They're off to a hot start. They've won, or they haven't, as you mentioned, lost a series since that Red series. And so, again, winning sometimes Band-Aids and masks issues. And the bullpen has been something we've talked about. This is not the first time that there's been the quick hook. And Spencer Turnbull to only pitch 1 inning. I mean, everybody comes in for 1 inning at this point, is the rotation. And honestly, we've seen now late in the game when you have a situation tied up 6 apiece, and you would have loved to see Turnbull go longer. So now Jose's coming in a little bit later. Hoffman's coming in later. We've seen this time and time again. And I think that's what has me concerned is they are winning these games. And I'm not even going to talk about the opponent, but I think the win in general is masking it. And how many times last season did we talk about the Phillies' issues that we saw in September, in October, and they did still come back to bite them, later as you get into the playoffs. And that's the thing. It's May. Yes, it's a long season, but we don't want to continue to see this. I don't care who they're playing. I think if it's going to be that Spencer Turnbull is a piecemeal as a bullpen guy, then he needs to be able to go more than 1 inning.
Well, that's what is. His arm is stretched out. Why are you just limiting him to 1 inning pitched? Unless, the benefit of the doubt here is with Sanchez and Walker, we'll see how he's used. Maybe he's just trying to keep him on a regular pitch count, and maybe it was his day to throw, and he goes, all right, well, I'll get the 1 inning of game work out of you rather than something on the side. So, we'll see what happens. Just a minor gripe from yesterday. It was an unfortunate way to lose the game because after Edmundo Sosa busts his hump down the line and gets to 3rd, allowing the sac fly to tie it, you really felt like that was a game you should have won. But a situation where Gregory Soto was coming in with a ghost runner on, you don't exactly feel supremely confident. And it's really unfortunate the way the game ended because Whit Merrifield was in perfect position to turn 2 and get out of the inning. But Soto reacts and deflects it, and it just trickles into right field there, and you lose on a real womp-womp type of ending.
And
but
I know,
you just don't feel good going into the extras with Gregory Soto and a man on second.
You don't. And to give some love in the chat, Chris Lemmer, Matt Deckard, Keith B, Philly 007, happy Monday. What's up, guys? Jump in the conversation as you're doing. Let us know. I know Slem is mentioning how we're splitting hairs here, but if we need to stretch someone out a bit to keep it going, then you worry about today, not the game you haven't played yet tomorrow. Ray, what's up?
Yeah,
but I think that's a good. I mean, it's a good topic to discussion to even have, because, we are looking at the Phillies. At least I know one thing I'm thinking of is it's not about just the Marlins. It's not about just the Sunday game. Bigger picture, it's about the longevity of this season and about, this team that has the potential to, as we talk about, win around 114 games, be a team that can go the distance. So these minor gripes are because we are not satisfied, guys. We are not complacent with beating the Marlins in a 2-1 series. No, we know that this team is capable of more. So I think it's just us, holding them to a higher standard.
And the one thing too, guys, you bring up that you don't feel truly comfortable with Soto pitching in the 10th inning with a ghost runner on, and I totally,
him or Sir Anthony.
I totally understand your sentiment, but at this point in a game when both starters didn't stretch out very long,
talk about Wheeler.
Neither Wheeler nor Garrett, and obviously Garrett making his first start of the season, neither of them pitched deep into the game. You're taxing your bullpen because of the fact that neither of your starters pitched well. On the flip side, Anthony Bender came into yesterday's game in the top of the 10th with the same exact ghost runner on second. The Phillies had a bases loaded situation where they could have produced a run. Bender came into yesterday's game with a 5.82 ERA and a 1.7 WHIP. It's when you get into these situations when you're facing the front end of the bullpen, if you will. I know it sounds kind of backwards, but like the front end of the bullpen, the guys that are supposed to pitch low leverage situations,
which is kind of Spencer Turnbull. Well, not low leverage, but
the likelihood is you're facing a guy with a higher ERA. Bender got the job done. Soto, unfortunately, a comebacker kind of grazed off of him and changed directions.
It was right there.
And it is what it is. So,
that was wild play.
We can complain about the fact that it was, in fact, Soto in that situation, but the Marlins had to turn to a guy with a bad ERA and a bad WHIP as well. And things happen. This is baseball. And that's why, to me, I know you're saying you take a look at it from a 6,000-foot lens, but they won another series. That's the headline of this weekend, I think. I understand that there's complaints about
we talked about
situationally,
Friday night.
But they won another series.
They did. And,
I still am going to be devil's advocate. And although I'm happy a win is a win, you have to pay attention to those little things. Soto coming in late in the game, in a situation where the game is on the line. And
it's not Soto coming in. It's not using the guys longer. Earlier.
Right. Well, yes.
Because you're forced to go to Soto.
Correct. And that's a problem.
Or Sir Anthony.
These are the types of things that, it literally came down to, I'm like, holy crap, who's next? Is it Sir Anthony? Is it going to be Soto? Either one, you're nervous. So I know, yes, we're happy. Great. Another series won. But ultimately, these are the types of things that we can't continue to see. If you have Spencer Turnbull able to go 2 innings, that extra inning could have made a difference. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. You never know, but like to have tried.
The Phillies, unfortunately, I think the other piece of news from the weekend is they're bruised and battered right now. As yesterday, part of the reason maybe you can't get the win is the offense doesn't come through for you late. Garrett Stubbs is very bad, and unfortunately, at least bad right now. We've seen him be better, but there's really nothing positive he's doing right now except maintaining maybe the vibes in the locker room. JT Realmuto with a twisted up knee and Kyle Schwarber with a banged up back. Both guys missed yesterday. Schwarber misses Saturday and Sunday. Rob Thompson says the guys are day-to-day. Hopefully, we'll see them back in the lineup soon because the backup catcher situation, I'm not going to make too much out of Garrett Stubbs because the backup catcher situation isn't one that should cripple a team. But when your star stud catcher is hurt, you notice these things a lot more. So hopefully, JT and Schwarber are fine, and we see them back in the lineup tonight. But the Phillies now without Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, and JT Realmuto yesterday, I mean, those are 3 of your top 5 or 6 hitters. So the offense was a little depleted yesterday.
Well, that's what makes losing that game a little bit more frustrating too, because they had it. Even without them, even without JT, Kyle, and Trey, it was still a very winnable game. And so, we've been seeing the Phillies be able to answer the call. Whoever is going in, whether it's Christian Pache, Cody Clemens, Whit Merrifield moving up to be leadoff, whoever it is, whatever the moves are, we've seen them delivering. And the weekend was going great, and then they just kind of ran out of gas a little bit, and it's a shame because, this would have been a great chance to walk away yesterday with a win, knowing this is a win with a very banged up group. You know, that's a huge confidence builder, momentum builder.
Sosa gave you the
to be able
momentum.
to get the sweep.
Yeah.
Right. You had Sosa make a big play on that triple.
Gave you the momentum.
You have guys, and what we've seen that has been a positive, and I actually was taking note of this Sunday before it all went downhill, was we've been seeing, even with injuries, next man up, the level's not dropping off. And in fact, those guys have been the ones that have been helping to deliver. We've seen Yoro, Pache, Marsh.
Pache had a nice weekend.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, listen, injuries are going to happen. It's just a matter of now at this point of the season, how are you managing it? You know, a knee injury for JT, back soreness for Kyle Schwarber should be minor, but you don't want these things to linger. And how many times have we seen that happen where you think, oh, it's just going to be a week, or, you know, just sore for a couple of days. And next thing you know, it's nagging throughout the course of the season. So my hope is that this is going to be something that they're able to do a good job of managing. Don't have to rush them back, and they can take time to heal.
Yeah, Mopar, I agree with you. I can't name one great backup catcher because it's not a real thing. But competency at the backup catcher position is kind of what I desire there right now. Garrett Stubbs is not good. And Zack Wheeler, I'm not putting Garrett Stubbs on Zack Wheeler's performance yesterday because it was just kind of one of those days he didn't have his command. Now, his worst 2 career starts as a Philadelphia Philly come in that wretched ballpark down there. Make of that what you will. I don't know. But he hasn't been good down in Miami. But the numbers are eye-popping when it comes to Garrett Stubbs catching Zack Wheeler games. Now, Zack Wheeler in 94 career starts with JT Realmuto catching has a 2.91 ERA. And this is courtesy of Sean Kane down at NBC Sports Philly. He has a 5.03 strikeout to walk ratio. Very good numbers. Zack Wheeler in 7 career starts with Garrett Stubbs catching a 6.29 ERA and only a 2.23 strikeout to walk ratio. Now, as Tyler and I were talking before the show, you know, we haven't really deep dove those 7 games. You know, there might be, one game that really inflated that ERA, or maybe even one inning that really inflated that ERA. But the thing that jumps out to you there is the strikeout to walk ratio. It's more than double with JT Realmuto catching compared to Garrett Stubbs. Now, Garrett Stubbs caught yesterday because of an injury, not because they chose to put him out there. But nonetheless, basically, never start Zack Wheeler willingly with Garrett Stubbs ever again.
It's not good. It's not good at all. I know in the chat you guys were mentioning also it's more indicative of how good JT is, not how much Stubbs struggles.
Yes,
George is calling him Tobias Stubbs. Listen, there's layers to this. One of them definitely is Garrett Stubbs. The numbers, as you just read, are
it's only 7 starts, but it's pretty ugly.
But in those 7, not good at all. And when the numbers are that high and you talk about inflation, it's concerning. And, you know, when it's concerning to deal with inflation, there are some friends that can help you manage that. That's our friends over at Mortgage CS, because rates are higher and the home prices are still rising as people are on the market to try to buy a house. And Mortgage CS can help get you into that house before those numbers continue to go higher, because you want to manage the numbers. You want to manage your spending, and you can also refinance to save money when rates do drop. So who doesn't love that? The chance to have the same house with lower payment, or to get into a new house with a lower payment. Over at Mortgage CS, as values continue to rise, they also want to continue to give you that great customer service, available 24/7 to answer any questions that you may have, to be able to support you through the process, give you insight, and educate and empower you. They do a great job with providing some really good customer service. And Mortgage CS is going to also help on the refinancing side to monitor your refinance opportunities and just ensure that you save money responsibly. You don't want to pay a ton of fees when you refinance, and you'll never have to worry about that at Mortgage CS. So in the end, you're going to be very happy that you reached out to Ben and Alec. You can reach out to Ben, the CEO of Mortgage CS, at 267-391-7425. You can email ben@mortgagecs.com. And there's a reason that people win more with Mortgage CS. So call or text Ben now. Again, that's 267-391-7425, and see for yourself. You can also go to www.mortgagecs.com/PHLY to check them out and view their 350 plus perfect 5-star reviews by searching Mortgage CS right now, because we all like winning. We all like being smart. We all like making sure that we're managing the numbers so that they're not jumping off the charts. And so with Mortgage CS, you do have an opportunity to get that great customer service, get educated and empowered, and make sure you're ready to hit the market hot. Because as we know, when it's your time, when your name is called, when it's your chance to go buy that house or refinance your home, you want to make sure you are most prepared to do so and to deliver. So check out Mortgage CS today. Again, that's mortgagecs.com/PHLY to get started today. But as you mentioned, it's just wild to think about. The numbers are not great.
No, they're not. And if you want to take advantage of some numbers you see across baseball, you can get some action in the game with the BetPark Sportsbook. It's the hometown sportsbook app. It's the one we recommend, and they've got everything. The Phillies tonight, for example, are -121 versus Sean Manaea up in New York. On the run line, you can get a +138 action if you think they covered the two lines with Christopher Sanchez on the mound tonight. Of course, you got some NBA action. The Celtics are a 8.5-point favorite in Cleveland tonight after Cleveland's really impressive Game 2 win. OKC is at Dallas tonight. They're a 1-point road dog. And then tomorrow, of course, the Pacers and Knicks, Timberwolves and Nuggets. All weekend, there's soccer, there's golf. It's PGA Championship week. There's always something that you can get in the game with the BetPark Sportsbook app. And if you win your first $10 bet, you can turn it into $125 in sports bonus bets. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet with BetParks. Download the app and play along. Must be 21 or older. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And Dave P., I'm sorry you did not like the Garrett Stubbs discourse, but like when you notice something with your baseball team, which is otherwise great and brilliant and things are good, yes, an occasional red flag kind of jumps out at you. And Garrett Stubbs is just like, it's like watching a pitcher bat all over again. It's an automatic out. So we'll move on because we don't want to beat that one to death.
No, and
But like that's when your ace is on the mound and you see those numbers.
I also just feel like you can't look at this with rose-colored glasses. Like just because the Phillies are now, of course, continuing, I should say, this hot start, top of the league, all the fantastic numbers and records that we've talked about, which optimistically is beautiful. It is only May, and if we don't take a step back and bigger picture look at these things, we're going to be naive and possibly setting ourselves up for some frustration.
And look, there's 162 games. Garrett Stubbs does have a very big role on this team, and that's it's kind of cliche at this point, but like the vibes officer, he's very good in the locker room. He keeps guys fun and loose, and that is a role on this team. So did you guys execute your homework assignment for the weekend? You probably don't remember this because I just said it in passing, and it's not really a real thing. Who do you want to poach from the Miami Marlins at the trade deadline? Because I got my guy. Tyler, I wonder if you can guess my guy because he's a left-handed pitcher, and I feel like you always hone in on left-handed pitching. My homework assignment, I want Tanner Scott from the Miami Marlins. They are a bad franchise that will probably sell anything. And everything they already have with Luis Suarez going to San Diego after like 4 weeks on the season. Give me Tanner Scott from the Marlins bullpen at the deadline, and let's call it a day. Thanks for doing business, Miami. So that's who I want, a lefty that can throw gas like that. Count me in.
Yeah, I mean, listen, apparently the homework assignment was one you gave out that you only remembered.
I said it. I mean, it was like, all right, everybody pay attention. Who you want to steal from the Marlins this weekend? And yesterday I was watching the game and I went, give me Tanner Scott. I'll take him.
Yes.
And probably not, not for a lot. I haven't looked up his contract, but I can't imagine it's anything that would cost you a ton.
There's been rumors, as we know, with the Marlins looking to shop.
A 1 year, $5.7 million deal. Psh, you can get him for nothing.
Yeah,
so
I was going to say,
he becomes
they look like they're giving away the farm.
He becomes an unrestricted free agent for the first time in his career this offseason.
Yeah, go get him. So that's my guy. Tyler, anybody you notice on the Marlins you want to poach?
I mean, this team stinks.
They're terrible.
It's really, really bad. I think the problem is there's a couple of guys that you would be interested in, and I think that the price tag
would be interested in.
Obviously right. The price tag is obviously going to be too high. Scott would be the only one that you would consider out of the bullpen. Like, I have no interest in Andrew Nardi. I have no interest in Bender that we saw yesterday.
No.
you know, there's clearly obviously no interest in like a Sixto Sanchez as a gate type of guy, a swing guy.
Sixto.
You know, AJ Puck has really kind of fallen off, and granted, AJ Puck.
I thought he was going to be great.
AJ Puck should have never been a starter. That he was really good last year in his role out of the bullpen, and they decided that, hey, you're going to start this year, and to the tune of 14 earned runs and 13 2/3 innings pitched. Really, quite honestly, there's not any pressing.
So you're with
players.
me, Tanner Scott.
I mean, yeah, if you're picking a guy, it's going to be Tanner Scott. But like, I don't think you're going to want to pay.
Where are you, Oz?
You're not going to want to pay what the Marlins are going to ask for Tanner Scott. And B, I'm not quite sure you acquire a lefty.
Yeah,
Strom was really good yesterday.
I don't think.
I think if you're going to get a bullpen arm, you're probably going to go get a righty.
It'd be nice to get a bullpen arm.
They're pretty split, right? In terms of arms.
They are, but my point is, if you
go get the best guy.
What I'm saying is, name your three your top three high leverage guys, and 2 out of the 3 of them are left-handed.
Yeah, righties.
Right, so you would go Alvarado, Hoffman, Strom, or Hoffman, Alvarado, Strom, which whatever order you want to take it in. I think that if
you think Strom is top 3.
Strom's been one of the best bullpen pitchers in baseball.
Yeah, he's been great.
Yeah, he's been incredible over the last
I wonder
4
internally
weeks.
What their answer would be to that question.
I think that they would probably consider. I mean, now if you want to say Kerkering's 4,
yeah, I would think the discussion is if you're doing a top 3, is it Strom versus Kerkering?
To me, it's Strom.
I think we've just seen.
I think
more.
Strom results wise, but I bet you internally some more answers go to Orion than you think.
I feel like we've just seen Strom a lot more too.
He's been great. Just don't give him inherited runners.
Yeah. But as you guys are talking about bullpen arms, one of the names that has come up, and I know Mopar mentioned him in the chat, Jazz Chisholm Jr., because I know Bob Nightingale did report that Jazz Chisholm Jr., there's some implications he might be next to be moved.
I just assume that
from the
whole
Marlins.
roster is up for grabs.
Peter Bendix, said that they're refusing to commit on whether they're going to keep him for the remainder of the year. And there have been a number of teams that have been brought up in the mix for who Jazz Chisholm could be going to. The Kansas City Royals are one of the favorites for him. He is making just $2.6 million this year with 2 additional years of arbitration in 2025 and 2026. The Phillies were also brought up in that conversation. The Cubs, the Royals, the Phillies as a potential landing spot for Jazz Chisholm to move.
I don't think that makes sense.
I don't either, but here's the deal that was listed as one of the landing spots for the 26-year-old. So for the Phillies, it was mentioned because of, at the time, of course, Nick Castellanos did definitely get going this weekend a lot more, but saying that one of the weak spots has been in the outfield, and you could potentially try to move Nick Castellanos or Johan Rojas to be able to slot Jazz Chisholm Jr. in. That is a deal with how many injuries Jazz has had, and just the fact that it's not a necessary move that I would not want the Phillies to take. I think Jazz is one of those guys that he's flashy, he's fun, he's a household name, he jumps off the page, but he's not a necessity for the Phillies right now.
I don't think that makes any sense.
No, I don't think
it's easy to move Nick Castellanos. You're not going to give something up to get rid of him when he shows you over the last week or so what his potential can be. Like, I don't think the Phillies are going to give up anything to get rid of him. So, I don't think that makes any sense.
Now, this came out prior to the weekend series, just to clarify that, make sure you. But it doesn't matter because regardless, between the contract that Nick is under and also just the fact that this is not a move that even makes sense for the Phillies, the area of concern is not the outfield as much. It is more of bullpen arms. But
Mopar says platoon with Rojas. I mean, maybe come playoff time, it makes you a better team, but I don't see the Phillies adding to this roster in a position.
The thing is, who do you move to bring in Jazz Chisholm Jr.?
Do you mean move in terms of who do you trade or who's off the roster? Because there's an obvious answer to who's off the roster.
They are looking for the trade for Luis Suarez was a lot of prospects.
You're probably talking about a top 6 or 7 prospect. So, I mean, are you going to trade a Justin Crawford for Jazz Chisholm for a half a year? No.
Well, it would be. You got arbitration left too, so it would
Does he have an arbitration year left?
2 years
left.
Yeah,
2025 and 2026.
I mean, do you move?
So you would think if you made the move, hypothetically speaking, you made the move, Jazz Chisholm would fill the Whit Merrifield role for the next 2 years after this season. Jazz has some pop. You know, he's a good player. Jazz has a little bit of pop. You know, he's going to hit about 250. He's going to steal a handful of bags. His downside is he strikes out a lot. His OBP is not particularly high. He doesn't walk a ton. He's only walked 34 times is the most he's walked in his career. So there's some positives, there's some negatives. The contract is the kind of contract that Dave Dombrowski values because of the fact that there is that team control with arbitration for a couple of seasons. Jazz Chisholm objectively would make the Phillies bench better. I am not sure.
But I don't think you trade for.
I'm not sure you're
piece.
Trading a top prospect for a bench piece.
Yeah,
Right,
I don't.
right.
If you're gonna trade, because you agree, it's gonna take probably a top 7 prospect to
It
get
would. I mean,
him.
last season,
So you're not doing that for
as you mentioned,
a non-starter.
In 97 games last season, he had 19 home runs, split for 250, 304, 457. He is young at just 26. So as you talk about, Tyler, could be a piece that is that utility guy, but what you're going to give up in place for him at this point of the season is unnecessary. It's
just give me
that's
two
not a
bullpen
glaring
arms.
hole. I know in the chat you guys are talking about it. Dave P is on one today. Dave, I don't know who peed in your cereal this morning, but I feel like you're in there
It's
like
not kink shame in 2024.
okay. I feel like you're like woke on the wrong side of the bed. But
I need some more coffee too, Dave.
It is definitely something that we've been seeing for Jazz mentioned with a number of teams. And of course, naturally, the Phillies got thrown in the loop because
we take all the bait here in
Bleacher
Philadelphia.
Report put out this piece and listed all the top teams and had, of course, the Phillies top 5 for a landing spot. But I don't think it's a necessity. I think as it's much more needed, as we just saw in the loss Sunday, to bring in a bullpen arm.
Yeah, stupid trade scenarios make me want to grab a Miller Lite because sometimes they make my head hurt. And Miller Lite doesn't. And shout out to Fit Dad CEO in the chat. Good to see you in here. Miller Lite is the original light beer since 1975. And to this day, it's still the best one. I took my mom out for dinner last night. It was just me and her. It was a lovely evening. And I said, bartender, Miller Lite, please. And when friends and family are around, it's just great to have a Miller Lite in your hand. And as we approach summer and bathing suit season, it's especially great because it's a less filling beer, so you're not going to feel like a tub when you're going everywhere. And they're only 96 calories per 12 ounces. And Miller Lite just keeps it simple. It's tasted like a beer should taste it since the day it was launched in 1975. And to this day, it's still the best one. And you don't have to choose what's best because Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling. Tastes like Miller time. You can get Miller Lite delivered directly to your door by going to MillerLite.com/PHLY or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than a premium regular beer. And we had 350 Tall Boys Friday night out in Manayunk. It was a great time. So thanks to Miller Lite for being a part of it. And Miller Lite, the original light beer.
Yeah, Miller Lite, delicious, refreshing, gets you ready for game time. And you know who else can get you ready for game time? It's the Game Time app, of course, guys. You can download the Game Time app today and take advantage of their low prices and all the convenience that they have on the Game Time app, allowing you to be able to see your seats so that when you, Mopar, Fit Dad, Dan, George, Philly 007, whoever is heading out to a game, a concert, a comedy show, you have the ability to see those tickets right on your app and get a chance to see where those seats are going to be located. That's the ease of it. You don't have to guess and wonder where you're going to be sitting. You have a nice view of where you and your friends are going to be hanging out at Citizens Bank Park for Morgan Wallen's concert this past weekend or whatever event you're going to. So with the Game Time app, you get to see your seats, you get some low prices, and you also get the convenience of showing up at the door and having your tickets right there on your phone, ready to scan to get right in. No more fumbling for tickets. I still chuckle a little bit when I see people pulling out their paper tickets or trying to get their Wi-Fi working because they should have used the Game Time app. And you can use the Game Time app today. Download it. Take advantage of the great simplicity, of the app and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time, especially for Major League Baseball tickets. When you download the app, create an account, use that code PHLY and get $20 off your first purchase. Again, that is PHLY, gets you $20 off. Terms do apply. Download the Game Time app today and get those last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Yeah, did you see who's tied with Ohtani in Major League Baseball for doubles, by the way? It's a question, guys.
It's an open-ended question. Do I have to raise my hand?
Did you see who's
Do I have to
tied
raise my
for
hand?
doubles? Yeah, anybody.
One more time.
Major League Baseball leader, doubles, tied with Ohtani.
Is it Philly?
Take a guess. That's what a question.
I know, but I need a hint.
leads into you guys guessing an answer.
I don't know the answer.
I saw.
I'm not even going to pretend I know the answer. I don't know the answer.
It's right under your nose.
It's not Alex.
It's me?
Yeah,
I lead the league in doubles?
It's
That's
me.
wow.
It is Alec Bohm.
I remember hearing something like that, but I didn't write it down.
Tied for Major League Baseball lead in doubles with Ohtani at 15. So Alec Bohm continues his hot streak, and hopefully we talked about the injuries to those two, but it is great to see Bryson Stott reemerge as a really good hitter. JT's been kind of thriving in the two-hole since Trey Turner's absence. Todd Zalecki put this out yesterday. Since taking over the two-hole, JT's hitting .459, and he's got a ton of extra base hits, including home runs, doubles, I believe even a triple in there. Unfortunately, we talked about the backup catcher situation. We're not going to go there. But Nick Castellanos also has reemerged. So those three have really stepped up here in the absence of Trey, which is a huge positive. And Nick said last time he was in a slump, headed down to Miami, getting back to his home batting cage. Rich had this in his morning newsletter today, helped him get out of it. And Nick certainly looks like he's pulled out of it after his weekend in Miami. So great to see those guys step up in the absence of Trey, who I believe they said on the broadcast yesterday was doing some light jogging in the outfield in Miami. So that's a positive sign. Maybe it's a 5-week thing and not a 6-week thing. We'll see. But, no doubt that sucks. So the week ahead, Renee, is a weird one because we have a 2-game home-and-home series with the Mets. And you might be asking yourself, why are we having a 2-game and 2-game home game series? Well, it's to balance out the upcoming London series. Both teams are considered a home team over in London. So if you take 1 game from each there, you make it to 2-game series. The Phillies are in New York Monday and Tuesday, in Philadelphia Wednesday and Thursday before getting to the Nats, another bad baseball team again, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, listen, right now, as we had talked about half the league is under 500, including the Mets. And so for the Phillies to have his chance, and I know Fit Dad was mentioning before, like it's great to see this group gelling and coming together. The numbers, as you are highlighting, outside of Zack Wheeler's struggling performance yesterday, because that's very uncharacteristic of Zack Wheeler. We haven't seen him have a bad stat line like that in over a year. But otherwise, we've been seeing guys that are on the positive doing really well. So I know we start off the show negative again. That's what losses do to you, of just having some frustrating points to talk through. But to see this group come together, Edmundo Sosa with his second triple of the season, an incredible play there. As you talk about the numbers for Bryson Stott, he was speaking a lot about how much he's been tweaking his game and how he's just been focusing
that triple
a
was
lot more.
Weird.
Oh, yeah.
What a weird pitch to drive there and take the lead.
Yeah, but how he's been even, able to step up and to have him have a stretch through April 27th that he was hitting at .210 with 1 home run, 10 RBIs, and a .559 OPS through April 27th. And then in a stretch of 10 games, batting .375, 3 doubles, 1 triple, 2 home runs, 13 RBIs, and a 1.219 OPS through 10 games. Swinging and missing less, chasing less, and overall just hitting the ball much harder. And so you're seeing it's coming together. It's clicking. Nick Castellanos, I had a number on him that was remarkable, but of course I can't find it now. Either way, it doesn't matter. We've seen Nick Castellanos just finally hitting balls, finally getting good at bats, continue to be steady in right field. And so the team's coming together nicely, and it's another chance in this home and home, which I actually don't mind the home and home, especially since it's New York. It's not a far trip at all.
No.
I think it actually adds something kind of cool to the schedule, that it's a nice 4-game series for you, Jamie, but it at least is like, home and home.
Well, this is only a London abbreviated series, so I can accept it.
I was going to say,
as not a coward
you beat
series.
me to it. Is this acceptable
this
for you?
is just scheduling. It's fine.
Because think about it. They probably, if they weren't playing in London, they probably would have chopped off one of these 4 games.
It'd be one of the 3.
Put them.
They
would have played Friday, Saturday, Sunday that weekend. They would have played Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week, and had Thursday off.
Yes.
It's just a scheduling thing.
And then also just one other thing with Kyle Schwarber, because it is, although he has that back soreness that did require him to miss 2 games this weekend, he is saying he doesn't feel like he needs to be on the IL because he doesn't think it's going to be that serious. So things are clicking, and even the minor gripes that we had, the minor hiccups, are fixable, workable. Could be worse. So with this home series, it's another chance for the Phillies to go out there and show. I mean, you have the Mets coming off of a series loss to the Braves where they almost got swept. And it was Brandon Nimmo that was the hero to help them
get to the Braves.
Keep from getting swept.
Oh, no, we'll laugh at the Braves in a little bit.
And so for the Phillies, a nice chance to see another series. If they can continue this hot start, to have every series except for the first two that you are unbeaten is remarkable.
Yeah, Tyler, can you scroll up a little bit? I forget who said it. They wanted to talk about the thing we talked about Friday night. Was it MBD? Oh, yeah, sorry I'm late.
Which thing that we talked about Friday?
Have you discussed why Brandon Marsh is a platoon player yet? We did talk about this on Friday night in the pre and post game show, a little bit MBD. At least I shouldn't speak for the others. I said I wanted to see him at least 2 of 3 times this weekend. Now the Marlins did throw 3 lefties this weekend in Luzardo, Braxton Garrett, and who was our man Friday night? Trevor Rogers.
Yes.
So 3 lefties went for the Marlins, which is unusual. You're not really going to see that in a series that often. And you do kind of have to tip your hat to Rob a little bit because Christian Pache had a pretty nice weekend, both in the field and at plate. So this is, Brandon Marsh plays 1 of 3 games in the series. I would have liked to have seen 2 of 3. I think Brandon Marsh has played above, 66% of the time getting sat against lefties type of guy. I'd like to see it a little more towards 50-50 at the end of the year. Maybe it balances out that way, but Brandon Marsh does only get the 1 start this weekend. I think it's a little weird with the context of saying Christian Pache was successful this weekend.
Well, again, when we talked about it on Friday,
I kind of sound hypocritical because it worked, but he should be playing 2 of those 3 games.
Yes, and when we talked about it Friday, obviously we didn't know how well Pache was going to play this weekend. But as we saw with Brandon Marsh sitting out both Friday and Saturday, Edmundo Sosa and Pache went combined 10 for 18. So Pache was 5 for 9 Friday and Saturday with a double. Sosa was 5 of 9. And then overall, this stat was kind of interesting because I know we talk a lot about, the management of Brandon Marsh and Bryson Stott against lefties and, tweaking the lineup and tweaking the batting order. Well, the Phillies' 6, 7, 8, 9 hitters were on base in 17 of 36 plate appearances Friday and Saturday. They're getting on base. They're giving you good at-bats. Yeah. They're helping you score runs. So although we'd love to see Marsh get 2 of those 3 starts this weekend.
It's not backfiring where we can go brimstone and fire.
And it's not backfiring enough to exactly. It's not backfiring enough to demand that you gotta allow Marsh to get the start there.
So
because
Dan
Pache's
and MBD,
doing well.
We're with you, Dan and MBD, about he's not going to improve versus lefties unless he gets opportunities.
Agreed.
And again, I can't speak for everybody, but this was my thought on it. For the first half of the year, I'm fine with the way Rob's doing this, but I think once you hit July, August, September, to their point, you do have to give him some more experience versus lefties because you're not going to sit Brandon Marsh in a playoff series. So give him some at-bats versus lefties in the second half of the season. First half of the season, pre-All-Star break, I go, I'm going to let you manage the roster how you see fit in terms of that because it is a long season, yada, yada, yada. But second half, he's got to see more lefty pitching.
I do think the concern is, even with as well as Pache and Sosa did this past weekend, their ceiling is not as high as Brandon Marsh's, as we all know. So, yes, they did deliver. They played well this weekend, but you have to get Brandon Marsh going against lefties. You have to get even Stott going against lefties. And so I wonder, with as much as, especially baseball players specifically, but as athletes, you're so routine, is it better to have a clean cut, like you're mentioning, first half, second half split, or to try to sprinkle Marsh in an occasional series here and there versus a lefty?
Well, this would have been the series to do it with 3 games.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like this series versus the Marlins would have been a prime series against a team that's struggling, that's selling the team, bottom of the standings, to go ahead and get Brandon Marsh some reps against the lefty.
Yeah, and part of it is Pache. He stinks versus right-handed pitching, so you have an opportunity to throw him against lefties. Tyler writes up on the screen that Marsh is 4 for 30 versus left-handed pitching with 16 Ks. I mean, that's like automatic out status. The problem is, come playoff time, you can't hide from lefties. So that's where the debate is born from.
And that's why I think for Rob Thompson's sake, it's almost a chicken or the egg situation. It's like
kinda.
Does Brandon Marsh stink against left-handed hitting? By the way, the egg
was first.
Okay, thanks, dinosaur man.
There are proteins in the eggshell that can literally only come from the chicken. Okay, go on.
I'm giving you like the John Krasinski from The Office, just like
I'm just saying it's a debate that can be proven.
So the egg absolutely came before the chicken.
Does Brandon Marsh actually stink against left-handed hitters in the small sample size, 4 for 30 with 16 strikeouts? Is that true? Does that actually mean that? Or is Brandon Marsh not succeeding against left-handed hitters because he's not getting an opportunity on a near everyday basis to succeed against left-handed and kind of sink or swim on your own? I think Rob Thompson's in a no-win, like kind of precarious situation, because if he doesn't play him, people are going to say Brandon Marsh is an everyday player, correct?
Sure.
And I think Brandon Marsh is much closer to an everyday player than Rob Thompson is giving him credit for currently. But on the flip side,
I don't even think he's discrediting. I think it's just like he has to play Pache occasionally to justify a roster spot, and he stinks. So it's like,
but also on the flip side, if you
it was the right move.
If you project 4 for 30 over the course of, I don't think he's going to get 200 at bats against lefties,
no,
but
maybe
maybe
get 100.
Maybe he gets 120. If you, not to say he's going to go 12 for 120, but if you project, or 16 for 120, if you project that to be the case, then Rob Thompson's going to sit here and say, I'm not sure how much I can play him against lefties. I don't think there's no perfect answer. There's no perfect answer right now, other than I'm almost inversely going with what you're saying. I think he needs to get left-handed at bats now.
Oh, you would have him in the first.
Yeah, because I think these are lower leverage games than August, September,
counterpoint
October.
to that, the Phillies have built up such an amazing record that you can not stress about August games as much.
So in that regard, you may be true, but I think right now is your best opportunity to allow him to get comfortable or to kind of sink or swim on his own.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would come down to Brandon Marsh, maybe. I don't know. Maybe
Brandon Marsh should be closer to an everyday player than what they're allowing. But I think that Brandon Marsh has to prove a little bit more against lefties, and you can only do that against lefties.
Has been having a good season. He's tonight
playing against lefties.
Now, do you play Brandon Marsh tonight?
That's
Sean Manaea is a lefty who's having actually. I know the rhetoric out there amongst the public is going to be Sean Manaea sucked. Well, this year he's got like a 3.5 ERA. I had him in fantasy for a couple weeks. He's a lefty. Now, do you go back to back Brandon Marsh, lefty?
Right.
This is 4 straight games versus left-handed starting pitchers, which is kind of wild. So what do you do tonight? Is Brandon Marsh in the starting lineup, or does Christian Pache get another run? Does Whit Merrifield play left field?
I think Brandon Marsh has to play today.
I think he plays tonight. Right?
I think the other side of it is Christian Pache. And again, you want to focus more on Marsh than Pache because you can get more from Marsh. But obviously, Rob is trying to keep Christian Pache, as you mentioned, get him in the lineup occasionally. So
if you want to trade him, you got to showcase him.
Right, if you're going to keep him on the team, he's got to play. And also, you never know. Like as we even see with Kyle Schwarber going down and Trey Turner going down and JT unable to play, you don't know who you're going to need. So from a team management perspective, I fully understand keeping guys going. You get Edmundo Sosa that gets a triple. You get Pache that's 5 for 9. Now they're feeling good if you do need them. And, God forbid somebody goes down with an injury. But on the flip side, that's why I think it's good to sprinkle. And that's why I even asked that question. Is it an even split for Brandon Marsh, or do you sprinkle him in now? Because why wait? Try him out now. Strategically pick a couple of series that you're going up against lefties, and you can have Brandon Marsh.
I think Rob disagrees because this would have been the series to do it.
I mean, listen, that's fine because I'm not Rob Thompson, but I would have loved to. I'm not, guys. Breaking news. I know
all
both
this
our names
time
start
I thought
with an
I was
R.
doing the show with the manager of the Phillies.
So similar.
I know.
But I would love to see.
It doesn't discredit you from being Batman, though. I've not seen you and Batman in the same place.
No, we're not.
Good point.
We never are. I would love to see Brandon just sprinkled in.
Yeah.
Try him out.
So we'll see tonight. This is the way the week goes. So you get Sean Manaea versus Christopher Sanchez tonight. Tomorrow, the day game, we're going to be doing a post-game show. Aaron Nola versus Jose Butt-O. And then when it comes back here on Wednesday, you get TBD versus the Mets versus our boy Ranger. And you'll be absolutely crazy if you don't think I'm going to wax poetically grab a cigarette and bonbon and talk about our dear boy Ranger here momentarily. And then Thursday, Taijuan Walker is going to pitch against TBD. Friday, Zack Wheeler gets his rebound effort versus the Nats. All right, let's talk about Ranger, and then we're going to throw a lasso around Major League Baseball this past weekend.
The numbers for this weekend. I mean, this weekend. Today, excuse me. Because we're going to we get a nice matchup here of some interesting pitching. And
Go ahead. I don't know where you're going.
All right, so just some numbers for today to keep in mind because we've got Christopher Sanchez getting the start. Now, Sanchez, as we know, coming off of the last start against Toronto where he gave up 6 hits and 1 run in 7 innings, he does have a 5.84 ERA and a 3.15 allowed batting average in the 12 1/3 road innings that we've seen for him. And then at home or against the Mets, let me back up. He is 1-2 with a 4.12 ERA, 22 strikeouts in his career against the Mets. So Sanchez getting the start today. He now has, of course, a 3.22 ERA overall for the season, but we have seen him, struggle a little bit more on the road. And on the other side, for Sean Manaea, who has led the Mets to 4 straight wins when he pitches, Manaea with a 4.30 ERA and a 2.36 allowed batting average in his home innings that he's pitched. He's pitched 14 2/3 home innings and has that 4.30 ERA. And then against the Phillies, 1-1 with a 4.82 ERA and 9 strikeouts in his career against the Phillies, and overall has a 3.31 ERA coming into today with 31 strikeouts. So 2 pitchers that are solid for their groups.
Yeah, Manaea's been better than
hopefully the
Phillies
can break that streak that the Mets have won 4 straight games with Manaea pitching.
But by the way, when you talk about the Philly killer and then Tyler take it, can we get Josh Bell the hell out of the NL East?
Somebody needs to trade for him.
Somebody needs to get this guy out of the NL East because he is a absolute Jeff Conine level Phillies killer.
He is
15 home runs versus the Phillies in his career.
The good thing is he's not been on good teams because he'd be at Cody Ross level at this point.
Did you hear the
Get
stat?
him out of here.
Did you hear the stat of guys with the most career home runs against Zack Wheeler? Ronald Acuna has 4. Josh Bell has 4. And then with the most, Cody Bellinger with 5 home runs off of Wheeler. In 13 at-bats, Cody Bellinger with 5 hits, 5 home runs. Josh Bell is one of those guys that is
get out of the NL East, dude.
for Zack
Please
Wheeler.
leave the NL East. If you want to come here and be a bench piece and chase a ring, sure, I'd love to have you. But other than that, get the hell out of the NL East. Tyler, you were about to say before I cut you off.
Yeah, so you guys talking about Manaea and his splits. I don't know how this is physically or feasibly possible unless he's faced nothing but right-handed heavy lineups. I'd have to dive into like who he's faced this year, like to truly see what the lineups look like. Manaea has only faced 4 innings worth of left-handed hitters, which means he's gotten 12 outs against lefties.
What?
Conversely, he's thrown 31 innings against 31 innings worth of outs against right-handed hitters. You don't even have a split on this guy because of the fact that it's been such a small sample size. Like,
so are teams just sitting all their lefties every time they face them?
It's either that or he's faced nothing nothing but right-handed heavy hitting lineup. So here's who he's faced this year so far: the Tigers, the Reds, the Royals, the Dodgers, the Giants, and the Cubs. So we would have to kind of dive into what the lineups looked like on those particular days. But
they feel righty in my head.
To only have 12 outs worth
sound like a bunch of righty ass teams.
It's 12 outs worth of left-handed
that's really
in
weird.
7 starts.
That's very bizarre.
Seems low.
All right, let's wax poetically about my dear sweet Ranger, and then we'll get to the lasso around Major League Baseball that was this weekend. Ranger Suarez. I mean, my God, if you haven't bet Ranger Suarez to be the Cy Young winner, you probably should, because it's still really, really good value. This dude does not seem like he is slowing down at all. Leads Major League Baseball with 7 wins. Has a 1.50 ERA for second in Major League Baseball. His 55 strikeouts rank 11th in Major League Baseball. He has 7 quality starts, the second most in Major League Baseball. 54 innings pitched for 4th in Major League Baseball. A 2.5 WAR for the best in Major League Baseball amongst pitchers, and a .72 WHIP for the best in baseball. Now, I'm just going to read through some of these stats, and you guys can fawn over my boy Ranger. This came courtesy of the Phillies post-game notes on Saturday. Suarez has allowed 3 hits in 7 scoreless innings against the Marlins. He is 7-0 with a 1.50 ERA. He's the first Phillies starter to begin a season with a 1.50 ERA or better in 8 starts since this guy named Grover Cleveland Alexander, who opened the 1916 season with a 1.3 ERA. Guys couldn't even hit back then. That's fake. Just kidding. The Phillies have had only 3 other starters this century open a season with a sub-2 ERA after 8 starts. Zack Wheeler this year with a 1.64 ERA. This was prior to yesterday's game, so that might have been inflated, but he was still in the record. Roy Halladay in 2010 and Brett Myers in 2005 with a 1.63 ERA. Just incredible, Renee, what this guy is continuing to do night in and night out. And he has passed the point of, I have supreme confidence in this guy, regardless of the situation, regardless of the opponent. This dude is incredible.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we're seeing from Ranger the different combinations, the sinker four-seam combo, the way that he's throwing his cutter, his slider, his curveball. And when asked about it, he kind of shrugs, and he was saying, as I said before, this is my job. Every time I step on the mound, I just want to go 7, 8, 9 innings. That's every time I go to pitch. I try to go as long as I can every time. He's like, I'm just doing my job, guys. But as you mentioned, the different records and numbers and stats that Ranger Suarez has accomplished, as we talked about Friday, Suarez is the first Phillies starter to win 7 of his first 8 games in a season since Steve Carlton back in 1981, who started off 7-0 as well. And then the other 2 Phillies pitchers that are on that list since 1901, Robin Roberts in 1952, who started off 7-1 with a 1.88 ERA. And then, of course, Grover Cleveland Alexander, as you mentioned, in both 1915 and 1911. 1911 ERA wasn't even tracked at the time.
Yeah, that's
but
fake.
In
That's why I say fake.
he
ERA
did have
wasn't
a
even around.
1.14 ERA. So Ranger Suarez making some history to cement himself with Phillies pitchers and just top pitchers dating back over 100 years is remarkable. But it does give you confidence every single time he takes the mound that you know what you're going to get from Ranger. It's been fun to watch.
The thing that makes you feel really good about it last season is the guy's a ground ball machine.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the 3rd highest ground ball rate in the majors at almost 60%. So, like, even when he's getting hit, nobody's really getting the proper launch angles on it. He's deceiving even when he's getting contact. So, you feel great about this guy. And Baseball Justice would say the Phillies really have to, you have to win a fucking World Series with this.
You do. You have a pitcher.
You have such an embarrassment of riches in your starting rotation right now that if you can't convert this into a parade down Broad, it's gonna suck. I hate to put the doom and gloom scenario, but there's not really. We've talked about it. There's not many holes in this lineup. When you're getting your 3rd member of your rotation to put up these types of numbers, you are a wildly rich baseball team.
Your 3rd starting pitcher is in Cy Young conversation as a front runner, and also is making records that we haven't seen broken in the last 100 years. That's remarkable when you think about it. And that's not your number 1 or number 2. And he could easily be someone's number 1 on another team. He's our number 3.
Yeah, he's anybody's number 1.
So, I mean, that's why I feel like are so hard on the Phillies, because they had the pieces. They don't have any glaring holes. The talent is there. It's theirs for the taking. We just want to continue to see them, perform at the level that we expect them to and play and get the wins they're supposed to get.
Yeah.
Starting tonight.
Yeah. All right. A little roundup of Major League Baseball over the weekend that was. Saturday in Pittsburgh was, I guess, one of the bigger storylines as Paul Skeens, who we talked about last week, made his Pirates debut. He was pretty spectacular. He went 4 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, 6 hits allowed, 7 Ks, 2 walks. Apparently some of his inherited runners left behind scored, I think is the story, and the earned runs was a little inflated. Did pitch better than what his actual numbers say. He hit over 100+ miles an hour 17 times.
Ooh.
17 times. And I saw his slider had 15 inches of break on one of his pitches. This kid's pretty exciting. I didn't get to watch the start. I only got to see the highlights. I might go throw on the abbreviated game out on the MLB app to catch up on it. But he was, as advertised, Mr. Livy Dunn. So an exciting time for Pittsburgh Pirates fans. They have some nice young pieces, and that's going to be a fun series when the Phillies head out there this year, because I know a ton of Phillies fans always go.
Yeah, and it was a nice moment for Paul that his teammates kind of let him go out to the pitcher's mound by himself and take in the crowd. The crowd gave him a nice warm welcome as he was announced. And then to also cement himself in some history across starting pitchers in Major League Baseball history because there have been a total of 3 starting pitchers in Major League Baseball history to average over 100 miles per hour with their fastball in a game, let alone their debut in a game. And it is, of course, Paul Skeens is one of them. And then Hunter Green and Jacob deGrom. And that is throwing 30-plus four-seamers and sinkers in a game that you can average over 100 miles per hour with their fastball. I mean, to come right in your debut and already put yourself into some history.
17 balls over 100.
That's wild. But it was very exciting for baseball in general. I feel like it was one of those moments that, we'll all remember of just regardless who you're a fan of, to see Paul Skeens get the nod and finally get to showcase what he can do.
Yeah, Keith B., I agree with you in the chat. It's unfortunate when you see a guy throwing this hard, this often.
To say it.
You just feel like the Tommy John surgery is inevitable.
I know I can't be the only one that was cringing. I mean, you're excited, but then you're cringing because you're like, oh.
How do you tell Paul Skeens to not throw at 100+ miles an hour?
You can't tell any pitcher to turn it back. It's never going to work.
That's the hard part.
So I feel he could be a Tommy John candidate down the line, but you wish injury upon no one, obviously.
Well, you also missed one of the most exciting news that happened in the ballpark this weekend.
I just started, so why don't you tell us, Renee?
I don't know. I feel like you were going to get there.
I have a couple more things on my notes.
Say yours first at FC, because I feel like
the Rocky baseball's weird. The Rockies stink, and they just swept the defending champ Rangers this weekend. So the Rockies got a sweep. That was quite weird.
Fantasy team took the L.
What was that? Your fantasy team took the L? Oh, that's too bad.
That is why, because I had a lot of guys in my lineup expecting the Rangers to do a really good job and roll over the Rockies, and they did not.
That's a shame. Thank you, Rockies, for helping Renee's baseball team lose. We appreciate you. The MLB Network put out their new power rankings today, and just to give you a little synopsis, the Phillies come in at second. The Baltimore Orioles are now the hottest team in baseball, according to MLB.com. Dodgers third, Braves 4, Yankees 5. The Brewers, who are going to be coming to town in the not-too-near future, come in at number 6. The Cleveland Guardians, number 7. Minnesota Twins, 8. Chicago Cubs, 9. And the Kansas City Royals, 10. So there are your Major League Baseball power rankings. And then if I don't get it in this last one, Renee, it's all yours. The Braves yesterday had a 8 2/3 inning no-hitter going until Brandon Nimmo spoiled it with a walk-off winner. The Braves go down. You love to see that. They don't get the no-hitter. You love to see that. Wah, wah, blooper, you dumbass fanatic crackhead. And the Braves go down.
Spoiled it.
Was that what you were going to get to?
No.
Okay. Well,
that's all I got. I'm surprised that you didn't get the most exciting, one of the most exciting, and I say that with sarcasm, news from the weekend that happened at a ballpark, and that was at our very own ballpark at Citizens Bank Park for one night at a time.
Morgan Wallen,
guys. Yeah.
Me and Country are. I like Chris Stapleton, and I like some
I'm not
old
a Morgan
country.
Wallen fan, but I really did chuckle. I really did chuckle, a hearty chuckle, when I heard the fact that Morgan Wallen, who's a Braves fan, not only had the Phillies chant going at Citizens Bank Park, but also was rocking the City Connect jersey on stage.
Well, then he's a fraud.
Exactly.
Because if I was Morgan Wallen, there isn't a chance in hell I'm putting a Braves jersey on down in Atlanta. Fraud, just like all the rest of the Braves fans. All right. No, not shocking that was your biggest thing to happen in Major League Baseball.
Well, it was just so on brand, I feel like, with where just the Braves in general, and especially watching their weekend series. Watching their weekend series go left, watching Morgan Wallen, who's one of your, big fans, has a whole song about you, come out in a Phillies, of all teams, a Phillies City Connect jersey at Citizens Bank Park. Just classic Braves behavior.
Morgan Wallen. Sad.
It wasn't the biggest
one of the biggest
weekend,
names in country music, and he outs himself.
That was
as
a
fraud.
huge moment for him to rep his squad,
shame.
and he instead repped our squad.
Yeah, you can't play to the crowd, man. Come out with your Braves jersey on. Say it with your chest.
He knew he would get booed, and so he
then
caved.
own it.
As a thing, own that you have a whole song about the Braves. You have a whole
He has a song about the Braves?
Yes.
Oh, God. I will never listen to that. All right, that does it for us today. For Renee Washington, Tyler Zulli, I am Jamie Lynch. So a little bit of our schedule this week. Tomorrow is going to be a post-game show following the 1:10 start on Aaron Nola Day up in Shitty Field in the Queens. Then Wednesday and Thursday will be normal times, 11 a.m. Hoping to talk to Jim Salisbury on Thursday. Tyler Kepner, a great baseball reporter for The Athletic, is going to join us on Wednesday. And then Friday night, we have a post-game show. We'll be talking to John Foley at some points during the week as well. So that's our week ahead. We look forward to hanging out with you.
And Saturday,
we're going to be doing an event down at the game, hanging out, tailgating, and going to the game with some of you. So looking forward to the week ahead for sure. Let's hit that thumbs up button. If that was the Braves fan being a fraud, hitting the thumbs down button, we don't care because it all counts the same for the YouTube algorithm. So for everybody else in here that wants to laugh at the Braves, hit that thumbs up button on the way out of here, and we will see you tomorrow on the post-game show here on the PHLY Phillies podcast.
beat the Mets.